Howdy. How's it going? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Oh, yeah, I am. Okay, good. Oh yeah, the third one. Yeah. Mhm. So I want to paraphrase by saying I think the current deportations that are taking place are um inhumane, and I think they are dangerous. I'm not really sure about. And yeah, I would say they are wasteful. Um. Okay, well, I guess what I'm saying is that I think in general, in principle, mass deportations are not um always these things. I think you can have mass deportations that are ethical and that don't like harm human beings in a deep sense. Mhm. I mean, obviously, if you're targeting people for like political reasons to deport them solely based on that, I think that obviously is like a violation of people's rights. I just think it's removing a lot of people. I think it's removing a lot of people from the country. That doesn't necessarily entail um like immoral or illegal action. Doesn't have to be in a short period of time. I don't want to argue the semantics. I get what you're saying. Wait, do you think masturbation, like that term, just inherently means you're doing a short, like it's over a short period of time, like over, let's say, 5 years, you're deporting millions of people. Mm, mm. Okay, okay. In practice, what are you what do you imagine in practice? Because I guess we kind of agree. So I'll probably just leave soon because I don't really disagree with any of your other prompts. But I want to like get your mindset on it. Mhm, mhm, mhm. But let me ask this. Let's say we had an epidemic of like visa overstayers over the past like 20 years. And it got to like yeah, let's say it was 10 times worse than it is right now. And we have a lot of people that are overstaying their visas. And we're saying, okay, we don't want to go about this in a horrible way. We don't want to be like whipping families about. We have to obviously like solve the problem. We can't have people abusing the visa program. Um, would you say it would be ethical to like start a process of saying if you're a visa overstayer, you're gonna have to go. We'll give you time to like get your affairs in order. We'll give like opportunities for you to appeal your situation in court, but you're gonna be removed. Mhm. Yeah. Mm. It's that grab you. Yeah. You're gonna go. Yeah. Mhm. All right. Okay. I guess we do agree. That's chill. All right. Good talking to you, man. Yeah, dude.
Okay. I think the YouTube audio is working there, and then...
Under pressure.
Okay, that's working. Okay, YouTube audio should be working now. By the way, if you're watching here, you want to watch it at a much better layout than what I have here, you can head on over to YouTube and watch there. If we have any more guest requests, which it seems like we don't, okay, in that case, I'm going to switch on over to covering some of the recent news in Hegseth's war crimes. Let's switch over our scene. Okay.
The president tonight meeting with top aides, including his defense secretary and the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. As questions...
Anyone who's watching who thinks Trump is doing a phenomenal job, you are free to request to hop on and explain why that's the case. I highly doubt you're going to. Democrats are the worst. Mr. Dad's not going to be in there. Yeah, none of these people are actually going to hop in the guest request. So once you decide to develop the testicular fortitude to upgrade from being a comment section person to a person who defends your opinions with your vocal cords, let me know, hop in the request box, and I'll switch back to the debate prompts. Until then, we're going to react to your dad's Secretary of War committing war crimes. So
about the United States military's second deadly strike on a specific boat, an alleged drug boat from Venezuela. This strike coming after a first strike apparently left 2 people alive clinging to the vessel. Now, that second strike is one that lawmakers and legal experts from both parties say is against the law, some even calling it a war crime. Now, the main...
You know how bad a war crime has to be for, like, Republicans to call it out? Because you don't see Republicans calling out, I mean, also a lot of Democrats don't, but especially Republicans are not going to be like, oh my God, did you guys see this war crime that happened in Yemen with weapons we supplied to Saudi Arabia? Did you guys see this war crime that happened in Gaza with weapons we supplied to Israel? You see this war crime that took place in Afghanistan or in Iraq over the last 2 decades. You don't see Republicans, jumping to the media screen to talk about those war crimes. So it's very interesting that Republicans are worried about this war crime from Hegseth, because what it shows you is that they're looking for a permission structure to jump ship. That's what this actually is. Republicans don't really care very much about war crimes. What this really is ever since the Epstein stuff started happening, ever since Trump's recent approval ratings have come out, which are showing him in the mid-30s, which is close to his approval after January 6th, Republicans see the writing on the wall. They know they're cooked in midterms. The House is going to be awash. The Senate is going to be more competitive than it should be, especially, please, Jasmine Crockett, don't run for Senate. Please, let James Talarico get that Democratic nomination. If you have, Talarico versus Paxton, you could see it's not outside the realm of possibility that Democrats could win a Senate majority. It's not likely, but it's definitely possible. Republicans know that. Just bear in mind, if the public numbers that Trump is getting is 36% approval, what do you think their internal polling is showing? What do you think it is? I'm going to guess mid-30s, mid to low 30s. And that's why there's no one in the guest request anymore, by the way. When Trump first came into office, his approval rating was 48, 49%. Now it's 35, 36%. So that drop in people is all the people that are typically in the guest box who are not here today.
The Drudge Report is war crime, Hegseth bloodlust, and it comes as well-known conservative lawyer Andrew McCarthy writes in the National...
The point of that entire yap sesh being... Republicans want off the MAGA train. They don't want this anymore. The ones who, I'm sure some are going to, cling on to the bitter end, but you might actually see some analogous shifts happening to after Biden's debate performance, where the Democratic establishment had to be like, do we keep falling in line, or do we actually, read the political tea leaves and say, if we want to ever win anything again, we can't hitch our wagon to this guy. I think you're going to see a lot of Republicans start doing the same with Trump.
If this happened as described in the Washington Post report, it was at best a war crime under federal law. At best a war crime, he says. Well, he's not alone.
I think it's very possible there was a war crime committed.
Do you believe it amounts to a war crime?
Under the facts, yes.
Obviously, if that occurred, that would be very serious, and I agree that would be an illegal act.
All right, that last person was Republican Congressman Mike Turner, and I'll speak with him in just a moment. So what is this Washington Post reporting? Well, let's be explicit about it. The Post is reporting that Hegseth's order to the U.S. military was, quote, to kill everybody. And that's what prompted the follow-up strike against those people clinging to the side of the boat. And this report was a bombshell, prompting the responses that we just showed you. And
here's the thing. That's a crazy directive to give. So just right now, if you don't know what's happening, the administration isn't denying that this happened. They're trying to shift the blame from Hegseth onto the admiral who ordered the strike, because they're saying Hegseth didn't specifically say, shoot the second thing. It was the admiral that made that decision. But here's the thing. If you're giving the order, kill them all, I feel like that implies illegality. Just by definition, is that even a legal order to give? Kill them all? Because that would imply that if the first strike doesn't achieve that goal, then there can be a second strike that happens under the parameters of that order. So it seems like the admiral and also Hegseth should face consequences here. And again, these boats, I'd love someone to hop on and debate me on Trump's immigration policy. It's not going to happen. I guarantee you that out of the 130 people watching, there are at least 2 or 3 Trump supporters. They're just way too scared to actually hop on and debate this topic because there is no more defending Trump anymore. It's actually an undoable exercise. These boats don't even have the capacity to make it to the United States. I think less than 1% of illicit substances in America come from Venezuela. If you're falling for this propaganda that like these are narco terrorists who are going to come here on like a raft somehow, these boats are not built to make it to our shores. Most of the drugs that are coming into the country are coming in from legal ports of entry, many times being brought by citizens. And the way you address these types of situations, even if those are drug boats, is you detain people and you prosecute them. You don't bomb them.
Of cleanup and denial from the Trump administration. Hegseth calling it fabricated, inflammatory, and derogatory reporting. And President Trump on Air Force One said this.
Number one, I don't know that happened. And Pete said he did not want them. He didn't even know what people were talking about.
Well, Trump at least there opening the door to saying, well, he himself didn't know what happened. But when it comes to...
Isn't that interesting? Because Trump normally doesn't try to like back off. He says like, yeah, I did do that. And what about it? The fact that he's trying to distance himself from this shows how bad it is.
The denial of this deadly strike. Trump's White House actually admitted at one point today that there was a second strike. Listen to this.
To be clear, does the administration deny that that second strike happened, or did it happen and the administration denies that Secretary Hegseth gave the order?
The latter is true.
The latter is true. Well, in the case of that question, then, according to Levitt, the second strike happened, but the Secretary of Defense didn't order it? Well, wow, that opens up Hegseth to another host of serious questions about his command and control. And yet, the Defense Secretary of the United States...
Because Hegseth isn't qualified for this position. I'm sure he just goes into all of the admirals and he's like, win the war, kill them all. America, put America first. That's like the extent of the instructions he gives them. I don't think he understands like naval formations and how to organize positioning of certain troops or like land forces versus like when is it acceptable to use certain types of strikes and like how do you calculate civilian... He doesn't know any of this shit, dude. He just goes in and tells them, hey guys, put America first, okay? We're going to be super fun and eagles and fire emojis and stuff. Like, this is an unserious person.
Is treating it like a joke. Today, posting this meme of it, Franklin the Turtle, a character, a children's.
Also, this seems like what you'd post if you said, yeah, I did order the second strike. What about it? Because what does this depict? I mean, not to read too deep into the tea leaves here. Seems like this boat's already been hit and he's launching another one at them. This is also such a pathetic joke for the Secretary of War to be tweeting shit like
caption
this.
For your Christmas wish list. Now, of course, just a reminder that he is the Secretary of Defense, or as he calls himself, the Secretary of War. He is the leader of the United States military posting that. And Senator Mark Kelly, a 25-year Navy combat veteran, who, of course, is now the target of the administration for his recent video reminding people to follow legal orders, took issue with Hegseth's post. Here he is.
He is in the National Command Authority for Nuclear Weapons. And last night, he's putting out on the internet turtles with rocket-propelled grenades. I mean, have you seen this? This is the
turtles, ambiguous. There are turtles being displayed. I don't know. This guy doesn't know who Franklin is. I saw, if anyone knows Sagar from Breaking Points, he made a really good point about how erratic the Trump administration's been acting, where he said, like, do you know how horrible you have to be to make Mark Kelly a compelling character? Which is so true, so well said. Nothing against Mark Kelly on policy, but this is the equivalent of like a buttertop piece of, what is it called? Buttertop toast? Just like coming to life and speaking to you. It's just like this is not someone anyone would be paying attention to if Trump wasn't threatening to kill him.
Secretary of Defense, this is not a serious person. He should have been fired after Signalgate. And then every single day after that.
True.
And of course, Signalgate, a reference to when Secretary Hegseth was sending messages about an impending strike ahead of it happening.
Just as a reminder, can we just go through off the top of my head, how many scandals can I think of that alone would constitute impeachment for any other president? Signalgate, Eric Adams corruption, Boasberg, defying Boasberg's orders for the Alien Enemies Act deportations, crypto schemes, talking to the Indonesian president about business deals he has with Eric, the Qatari jet, him talking about how Khashoggi deserved to be killed by the Saudi Arabian government. There's so many things that it's like it all becomes a blur. Mahmoud Khalil being detained, U.S. citizens being detained by ICE, not being able to call lawyers, asylum refugees or asylum cases being thrown out illegally, refugees being thrown out illegally, inspectors general we're already over 10, and this is just me scratching the surface of what I can, muster off the top of my head. It's so insane. It's so insane, like the levels we've gotten to here. And I'm gonna, just to be on the safe side, actually, maybe I should just switch over to this layout.
A group that included a reporter. But it is not just Democrats that Hegseth must contend
The
with.
pardon for the...
It appears to be affecting those
the pardon for the president of Honduras, who is like a cocaine trafficker, right? It's the National Guard being sent in against the consent of the governor, J.B. Pritzker being threatened with arrest, Brandon Johnson being threatened with arrest, Gavin Newsom being threatened with arrest. When Gavin Newsom gave a press conference, DHS agents being sent to just stand outside the building to intimidate people. He's sending armed thugs to stand outside a political event to intimidate. Like, there are dozens and dozens and dozens of impeachable offenses here. This is like so beyond the pale, and it's so not normal, and it's so easy to become desensitized to this stuff. This is like a complete 5-alarm fire. We are in the midst of authoritarian capture, and we're also in the midst of mass hysteria. The fact that 36% of the country can say this is okay with me is insane, because if any other president did 1/1,000,000th of this, they would be smearing their shit on the walls and crying. I saw Destiny make this point the other day. It's such a good point that if Obama ever was talking to Fox News and said, who's this question from? Oh, Fox News, Bret Baier, you are fake news. I'm not answering your question. That alone, those words being uttered, or Fox News being kicked out of the press room, that would be a tale that Republicans pass down for like 5 generations. They would print bumper stickers that go on your truck. They would have flags with skulls and snakes. We are all Bret Baier. Like, it's such a joke how they have no standards. The same people who cried so much about Hunter Biden Burisma will watch Trump on a hot mic talking to the president of Indonesia, and the president's like, hey, can you have Eric call me back about that one business deal? And Trump's like, yeah, I'll let him know. He's just coordinating business deals with his family members and foreign leaders. Yeah, totally normal stuff. He's just offering White House tours to people that buy his cryptocurrency. Totally normal stuff, sure. This is why it's annoying to talk to MAGA people. They don't hold the values they claim to hold. They don't care about corruption. They don't care about freedom. They don't care about free speech. They don't care about no new wars. They don't care about lowering prices. They don't care about American manufacturing. These are all things they pretend to care about insofar as it serves a narrative about Trump fighting the establishment and fighting the swamp, and all these liberal elite people are trying to inject you with microchips and then bring in the immigrants to eat your children and like replace you and take all your jobs. Like, it's all this intricate web of bullshit that has somehow captured a quarter of this country. And it's not just that Trump and his administration needs to face consequences. All the people that facilitate this and vote for this need to face social consequences for this. Peacefully and patriotically, of course, like Trump said on January 6th.
Up the chain of command to Hegseth. The top military official overseeing the strikes announced his retirement a little bit more than a month.
Make sure you're double tapping the screen.
It was a surprising move, given that Admiral Alvin Holsey had only been in command for less than a year. But sources tell CNN that tensions between Holsey, who was overseeing U.S. Southern Command, and Hegseth had been simmering for weeks. And Holsey was concerned that the strikes in the Caribbean may not have been lawful. And even in Congress tonight, Republican Congressman Don Bacon raising that same concern, saying that if these strikes occurred like what's being reported in the Washington Post, it would be, quote, an illegal act. Echoing the words of Mike Turner, who will be with us in just a few moments. Let's begin now with Elena Treen, though. She is out front live outside the White House. And Elena, Trump holding a meeting at the White House tonight about Venezuela as we are speaking. What's the latest you're learning?
Yeah, and it does appear that it may have ended. We're still waiting for firm confirmation on that, Aaron, but we saw many of the motorcades leaving the White House after that Oval Office meeting. Look, when I broke the story this morning with our colleague Natasha Bertrand about this meeting, we were told it was going to be on next steps regarding Venezuela. And one of the people who was expected to attend that meeting was Pete Hegseth himself. So I think a lot of it, of course, going to focus on the topic that dominated that briefing today. A lot of these questions and concerns being raised on the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue and inside Capitol Hill as well. But other people in the room as well. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Dan Kane, all of the people who have been very crucial to trying to map out what their future plans regarding Venezuela are. And I'd remind you what we've heard from President Trump himself, which is that, yes, they want to continue with these strikes on boats off the coast of Venezuela and other places, but also they're looking at potential land strikes as well. And we've reported on.
Is it even legal to give someone the, like, I'm not familiar with like military rules on use of force and like what's considered proportional, but I can't imagine that it holds up to any legal scrutiny to kill someone for drug trafficking. Even if these were like quote unquote narco terrorists who were bringing a bunch of fentanyl here, is that punishable by death, like legally? You can argue maybe it should be. That's like a different conversation. But a lot of this just seems like Trump gets to do what he feels like he wants to do because he said so, and if you disagree, you hate America, or you're Antifa or something, I guess.
They've been looking at targets such as drug routes and drug facilities inside Venezuela. All of that as well, after we know that the president...
Yeah, not only did they have a right to a trial, if I was concerned about these people, I would detain them and ask them questions like, who do you work for? Where are you getting this stuff from? What routes do you normally take? What are your methods of sneaking stuff into the country? I wouldn't just... What is this, like, shoot first, ask questions, never approach that they take with fighting crime? It's so performative.
Confirmed that he had spoke with the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, just a couple of days ago. He did not say if that meeting went well, but he also didn't say it went bad, Aaron. But I do think the key question, and what I keep hearing in my conversations today, has been about the concerns over that double tap strike back in September. And I do think what the press secretary said today didn't answer all of the questions that people have. Specifically, I think the key question is, yes, she said that the Admiral Bradley ordered that second strike, but did he do that knowing that there were survivors that had survived after that first strike, or was he just keeping with the broader command? That's the key thing, I think.
Listen, Hegseth should face consequences, but we're not letting this general or this admiral off the hook for saying, yeah, I just ordered a second strike just cuz. If you're ordering a second strike, I feel like you're trying to strike something, right? So, I mean, the hot take, the cold take here is that Hegseth and that admiral guy should both face serious scrutiny for this. Hegseth for giving the order, which clearly implies illegality in implying like a follow-up strike, and then the admiral in actually following that order. All of a sudden, that video from the Democrats saying don't follow illegal orders seems like, you know, makes a lot more sense.
He do that knowing that there were survivors that had survived after that first strike, or was he just keeping with the broader command? That's the key thing I think the administration is facing right now.
All right. Thank you very much, Elena, with that news from the White House. And I want to go now, as promised, to Republican Congressman Mike Turner on the Armed Services Committee. And Congressman Turner, I really appreciate your time, and it's good to speak with you again. So we know the president just held that meeting with Hegseth and Rubio, among others, about Venezuela. Elena's reporting that the motorcades left, so they're waiting formal confirmation that the meeting's done, but it appears that it has wrapped up. Have you been briefed about this or the details in light of all this reporting of the strikes themselves?
No, Aaron, I think it's very important that what Elena said. No one really has had the information yet, and I think that's what's important as to what has to happen next. What we know, and what we certainly, everyone has said, no one on Capitol Hill has any information previously that would have corroborated what the Washington Post had reported. What we know since that report is that the Secretary has said that the report is not accurate, that he did not give that command. The White House since having said that Admiral Bradley was in charge, and then, as Elena has said, the question then goes to the facts and circumstances with respect to that second shot, or the double tap, as you guys have been referring to it. Yep. Now, what we also know is that both the Armed Services Committees, and both the Senate and the House, have indicated that they're going to look into the circumstances of this. On a bipartisan basis, you have members of Congress who have stepped forward and said that Congress will take a look at this. Now, what's very clear, and then what is concerning, is that this is other than what is expected by Congress. The briefings that we've
was just watching Facts Still Matter debate Milley, and she's insufferable. Who is this Milley person? I feel like the last 3 times I've been live, someone tells me to debate Milley. I don't think I know who this is.
Legal opinions that we've been provided. This is other than what has been expected in this, and people have been very concerned as to how these strikes have been operated, and certainly this is very concerning as we look to then now what actually occurred.
Right. So, the Washington Post reporting, as I said, just to be clear, was that Hegseth's order to the U.S. military was, quote, to kill everybody. Now, when you talk about the Washington Post reporting, I know you've been clear that if it happens as they laid out, it would be an illegal act, right? So I guess what I'm trying to understand from you, Congressman, is what more you need to know.
Is this even a legal order to give? Sometimes there's a both sidesification that happens in the media because they're so, by the way, terrified of being accused by the right of bias, where they take something that is like so black and white and they run an entire news cycle about how there's like 2 sides to the issue actually, and like here's the devil's advocate approach, even if it's like clearly bullshit and it's like grasping for straws. This is one of those situations where it's like, it's so crystal clear that this is fucked up and that it's Hegseth's fault. So, like, we're talking about who ordered the double tap and what was the chain of command. It's like, okay, I don't think it's actually that complicated, but.
And just talking to you as a member of Armed Services, right? Is it fair that I would be surprised that you have not been briefed on any of this and that you are not aware of the details at this point?
Yeah. No shit. That's fair. Bro, Trump broke the media. They successfully broke the media. They convinced the media that they were so biased and so horrible against MAGA that now the media goes out of its way to twist itself into a pretzel to lend credence to the Trump argument or act like, let's see what the Trump case is for this, as if it's just as valid as reality. This all started, I remember like it was yesterday, in Trump's first term. I was in high school, and I remember this is like engraved into my mind. And Sean Spicer comes out right after Trump's elected and says this was the biggest crowd ever for an inauguration, when very, very clearly it was not even close. And I remember the media was like, made a big deal of it. Like, this is really weird. Why are they just lying to us? And then MAGA's like, look how much the media is overreacting about crowd sizes. They constantly did this thing where they gaslight the media. You're making such a big deal of this. Why are you siding with the left on this? And the media shrinks and shrinks and shrinks in its criticism of Trump, thinking that criticizing something that's obviously bad is like biased in a partisan manner, where now they cower in front of Trump. Trump insults them to their face. Quiet, piggy. You're stupid. You're ugly. And they're like, oh, yes, sir. I was just asking a question. Like, it's so pathetic. And still, these MAGA people have such a victim complex that despite the fact that the mainstream media bends over backwards to appease them, they still think the mainstream media is like out to get them or something, which is so ridiculous. Because God forbid they face even the slightest amount of scrutiny. It's ridiculous. And then after that, remember Alternative Facts? I think this was after the Sean Spicer thing. What was her name? Kaylee something? She was one of these blonde old women that was part of the Trump administration in the first term. She was like, well, the media can say this, but Kellyanne Conway. She was like, the media can say this, but we have our own alternative facts. We have alternative facts. Which at the time, the media was like, what the fuck is an alternative fact? There's facts. There's no alternative facts. There's perspectives and stuff, fine, but facts are facts. And the media has been brainwashed and just beaten into submission, into accepting alternative facts as like a structural thing that we can talk about and take into account when we analyze something now. It's crazy. Someone should make a documentary on this. Go back to the inauguration press conference with Sean Spicer, Kellyanne Conway's defense in the media, and then fast forward to now, what the media has become. And a lot of these media people need to face consequences as well for abdicating their responsibility.
From you, Congressman, is what more you need to know? And just talking to you as a member of armed services, right? Is it fair that I would be surprised that you have not been briefed on any of this and that you are not aware of the details at this point?
Well, not at this time. You have to realize everybody just got back from the break in Thanksgiving, and people are now beginning to ask these questions. The one thing that you know is that in classified session, all of Congress was given access to the legal opinion.
If you ever want to properly understand the severity of what's going on right now, I guess you have to be of a certain age for this. I was in like sophomore year of high school when Trump became president. So I somewhat remember what the Obama era was like and what was considered normal and what was considered a scandal and like what these standards were, what the severity of these things were. I want you, if you can just imagine back, if you spoke to 2014 you, okay, assuming you were like old enough to be somewhat sentient in 2014, right? If you went back in time to 2014 you and you explained everything that's happened in the last 10 months, imagine how you would react to that. You'd be like, there's no way this is real. So first he tried to do a coup, and then he was elected again, and then he did this with the DOJ, and then he killed these people, and he pardoned who, and he did what? And then he said, what about Tylenol? Like, it would be inconceivable. I honestly feel like if you went back in time to 2014 and told someone, this is what's going to happen in the future, they would like laugh at you. They would say, even if it got this bad, it would take a few decades to get that bad, right? It's like, no, this happens in a few years. It happens really fucking quick and extremely, like, to an extreme degree. Like, people always say to me, like, oh, you predicted so well Trump's second term. And those people are right. But what they miss is I predicted this would happen over the course of 4 years. My prediction was, over the course of Trump's second term, the DOJ is going to be gutted and politicized. There's going to be blatant politicization of every single government agency with Schedule F and appointing unqualified people. He's already done all of that stuff, and it's not even been a full year yet, which should make you question, where does this go? How bad does this get? If this is what we're escalating to, and it's not even the end of 2025, where do you guys think this is going to be in 2027? How would Trump react to, I was going to say, how would he react to bad midterms? Would Trump let Republicans lose midterms? Would he let that happen? Like,
on which the department was relying when they undertook.
It's so annoying how people they adjust. There's like a new homeostasis we reach with every new scandal, where it's like, this is the new normal, no cause for concern. This is now everyday life, no cause for concern. And you forget what the actual baseline was. You forget where we started out and where we've ended up, which makes it impossible to treat these things with the severity that they're owed.
These strikes against these boats. Now, even though everyone is very, believes that the administration rightly has identified this issue of the drug trade as being something very significant that they want the administration to be focused on, people are very concerned about these strikes.
I disagree. Project 2025 is not the worst of it. Project 2025 would be the worst of it if Trump maintained institutional support from Republicans. If Republicans start jumping ship, and now the only people backing Trump are the cabinet, in that case, it's over. It's actually cooked. Hold on, I'm getting a phone call. It's over. We're gonna have a rogue executive branch. The Project 2025 stuff and like this technocratic building out of right-wing authoritarianism, where they're actually going through agency by agency and they're having the Heritage Foundation draft all these executive orders, and there's like a certain structure to it and a certain ideological coherence to it. That is not going to be there if things continue the way they're continuing. What it's going to be is actually a lot scarier, a lot worse, a lot less predictable, a lot more erratic, a lot more dangerous, a lot more volatile. Because ultimately, if Republicans start saying, we're off the Trump train, all the congressional Republicans say, we're off the Trump train now, sorry, then Trump is like shit. There's like no point in this facade of communicating with Congress or communicating with the courts. I have Pam Bondi behind me. I have Kash Patel behind me. Let's start ignoring all these court orders. Let's start arresting. Just arrest them. Indicting is like a formality. Why would I indict these people if the judge is just going to throw out my indictments? Skip the indictment part. Let's just declare that we've suspended habeas corpus. We're nationalizing, or we're federalizing the National Guard. Like, this sounds extreme now. I feel like by 2027 we're going to be there.
In the manner in which that they're occurring. And then with this report coming out, obviously it diverges significantly from what both the legal opinion that we were provided and it, of course, plays into the very concerns that members have, is the fact that these strikes are occurring at all.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says the suspect in the shooting was radicalized in the U.S. after arriving from Afghanistan in 2021.
We believe he was radicalized since he's been here in this country. We do believe it was through connections in his home community and state, and we're going to continue to talk to those who interacted with him, who were his family members, talk to them. So far, we've had some participation, but anyone who has information on this needs to know that we will be coming after you, and we will bring you to justice.
We're joined now by former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. He's a CNN senior law enforcement analyst. Andy, great to see you as always. What do you make of the Secretary here describing him as radicalized? What exactly does that mean? How is evidence gathered to prove that?
So it's really important that we're precise with those words, and I'm not sure that the statements we heard over the weekend are exactly that. Typically, when we say radicalization, we're talking about somebody who is becoming more extreme in their religious or political beliefs until they reach the point that they actually resort to violence to pursue those beliefs. When we're talking about this individual, there's a question. He went through some process since he's been here in the United States that took him from ally of the U.S., somebody who fought shoulder to shoulder with our folks in country in Afghanistan for years, to becoming someone who picked up a gun and pointed it at, used it lethally against service members here in the United States. It may not have been a traditional radicalization path, but clearly he experienced something that brought him to that terrible moment.
So emails obtained by the Associated Press paint to a picture of a person unable to...
By the way, I gotta head out in like 20 minutes. I'd love to get a debate done before I head out, but I doubt there's any MAGA people that actually have the courage to debate. So I guess we'll wrap up with watching this stuff.
...hold a steady job or commit to his English courses while he was alternating between...
I may potentially be back tonight. We'll see.
...periods of dark isolation and reckless travel. What do those kinds of things tell you about this suspect and that kind of path that you're talking about?
Yeah, so a couple things. There's no indication that this individual was radicalized or sympathetic with terrorist organizations, the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, before he got to the United States. Had he been, he never would have been approved to work that closely with the CIA and with our special forces folks over there. So what investigators are looking for now are communications and contacts to people who might have been associated with those groups. So far, we haven't heard any evidence in that category whatsoever. But what we have heard is a lot of things about his life here in the United States that may have precipitated a devolution in his mental illness. So you have someone who served overseas in an incredibly high operational tempo, engaged in violent combat on an almost nightly basis. He did this for 8 years on behalf of U.S. interests, fighting with our soldiers. He's then transported to the United States, cut off from his culture, cut off from his extended family, cut off from his mentors, loses his military career, his esteem, all those things that he had spent 8 years creating in his home country. Finds himself in Bellingham, Washington, in substandard housing, driving food delivery to try to make ends meet for his wife and 5 children. We know he suffered financial distress, lost his work permit, so couldn't even do that anymore. So you can see these sort of life stressors stacking up on this individual. Understanding that, the idea that he may have had some sort of a break that led him to this horrible, horrible, violent decision, that picture seems to come together a little more clearly.
To what you were just describing, there was a community advocate who apparently reached out to a refugee organization for help, fearing that the suspect at one point was becoming suicidal. Yeah. As you hear the secretary there saying that they're going to interview folks that interacted with him, what would you ask them? Well, that's exactly what you want to do. You want to talk to family members, anyone he may have interacted with, either in his...
It is Election Day in Tennessee tomorrow. It is Election Day in Tennessee tomorrow, a special election for Tennessee's 7th congressional district. This is a heavily Republican district, so why are Republicans having to spend so much money there? CNN chief data analyst Harry Enton is here with the details. When I say this is a Republican district, Harry, how Republican?
It is a ruby red Republican district, John Berman. What are we talking about? Well, why don't we just take a look at the past 3 presidential elections in the great state of Tennessee, in the 7th district, in that great state. Look at Trump's margins. In 2016, he won it by 17 points. 2020, 15 points. And then in 2024, Johnny B takes the cake here. We get Donald Trump winning by 22 points. That's why I say even a close GOP win tomorrow is a bad sign for them, because what we're dealing with is a district that all 3 times that Donald Trump was on the ballot in general election, he won it by double digits. And last time, he broke the 20-point margin barrier.
I would say if you had to look at the congressional map, any district that Donald Trump won by 22 points, you would say, you know, you've got like nearly a 100% chance of winning if you're running for Congress there. But what are the prediction markets saying right now?
Yeah, what are we talking about in terms of the prediction market odds? Look, the Democrat has a 15% chance of winning in that race, okay? A 15% chance, which ain't nothing in a district that Donald Trump won by 22 points. But here I think is the key nugget on this side of the ledger, and that is a GOP win by under 10 points. There's a 68% chance of that. So there is a more than 2/3 chance that the Republican candidate, yes, they win, but they win by a significantly lower margin than Donald Trump. We're talking about double digits, smaller. We're talking about a huge, huge shift to the left. We're talking about when you add these two together, we're talking about a more than 80% chance that there's a clear double-digit shift to the left and a 15% chance that Democrat actually wins in a district that Donald Trump won by 22 points. That just shows you how bad the environment is for Republicans.
I've been saying I think Texas is in play for 2028. I think Texas is in play for 2026 if we have Tallarico as the nominee for Senate. There are a lot of states that are going to be in play this upcoming election in the midterms and the general. People forget that in 2020, Biden came within 5.5 points of winning Texas. He flipped Georgia. He won, obviously, all the Rust Belt states, Arizona, Nevada. He was within a point or two of winning North Carolina. Like, the people need to be more imaginative about what is, like, considered possible in politics. Because, like, hold on. If we just go here, right, for the 2024 map, the election map, and in terms of Tennessee, I doubt Democrats actually win, but the fact that you're seeing a reduction in margin from plus 22 to potentially plus 8, plus 9 is insane. So like when we think about like a Democrat that could win the next election, we're thinking, okay, they're gonna flip over the Rust Belt states for sure, like Biden did, win those. Let's say they get back Nevada, Arizona, whatever. This is, I guess, a win, but like this is not what Democrats should be aiming for. You can say this is maybe like the most likely path to victory, but you should still try to expand your chessboard when you take into account, when you look at the Virginia races and the New Jersey races for the off-year elections, the margins we're seeing Democrats win by, and then we're seeing now out of Tennessee are indicative of a national sentiment shift against Trump. I mean, which is not shocking when you look at the 36% approval rating. Bear in mind, when Trump lost the 2020 election, his approval rating was in the 40s, I think. It was only after January 6th that his approval rating dropped down to 34%. And if we are now, less than a year into his second term, approaching already 34% again, I think he's at 36 in Gallup, that is going to have ramifications on the electorate. It's going to hurt down ballot Republicans. And like, I think people, if we could secure this win under Biden, right, when Trump had a higher approval rating than what he has now, if Trump has a worse approval rating in 2028, or even in 2026, because it's going to carry over to down ballot candidates, even if he's not on the ballot, we can outperform this. We can outdo this, right? In terms of 2028, I think North Carolina is in play. I think Texas is in play. But does this mean that we're going to win those states? No, right? When I say in play, I mean there's like at least like a 30% chance we could win this, which again is a small chance. But like, just to be reminded again, 2008 election map, like, this was not that long ago. And I don't know why people think that these trends are like, once they move one way, they can never, ever be reversed. Obama won Ohio. He won Florida. Now we just treat Ohio and Florida as red states, which is stupid. I understand that we can say, okay, you have to prioritize spending and like we're less likely to win these states, but you have to take maybe not a 50-state approach, but like we can't just keep focusing on these same 7 states over and over and over again. Obama won Indiana. He won Iowa. And is it crazy to say that 20 years later we can't also flip one of these states again? If we have like a very charismatic, very good person on our ticket, after 4 years of disastrous Trump, his approval rating is like in the 20s, let's say, by this point. And you have a Tallarico as the nominee, or someone who has an Andy Bashir as the nominee, someone with broad-based appeal, nonpartisan appeal, who's like, I'm just a problem solver, right? That's your aesthetic, at least. I'd prefer that we have someone who's aesthetically moderate, but in terms of policy, they are progressive. I think that's probably the winning combination. And like, it's fun to do these like thought experiments because I think they act as positive motivation. Florida maybe is a harder state to flip, but like, if you just look at this map right here, right? This is combining the best of Biden with the best of Obama, plus flipping over Georgia and Texas, right? Is it because that's all I'm changing, right? If you're combining the best case scenario, like the 2008 Obama results, because again, remember, Vivek Ramaswamy is running right now for Ohio governor. No one likes this guy, and I'm sorry, a lot of Ohio Republicans are probably not going to want to vote for a brown guy. I'm not going to be shocked if the Democrat wins. What's her name? Amy Action. If she wins the governor's race in Ohio, and then does that translate up ballot in the general in 2028? Like, again, I want to paint out like how I'm not saying this is what's going to happen or it's likely, but it's much more possible than people give it credit for. So if I go back to the 2020, why is it not showing me the 2020 map? Okay, let's go back to the 2020 map, right? Oops. This is our 2020 map, right? And then let's do nothing more. No more reading the tea leaves or making crazy estimations. Let's just combine with the 2020 map the 2008 map. Okay. Alone, insane. And this is none of this is something that a Democrat has not won in the 21st century. Okay, and I understand certain populations have shifted in other directions, but I think what we learned in 2024 is that if in the right storm, when the incumbent is hated enough, when the person who's challenging the incumbent is like seen as like an outsider who's going to shake things up and change things, you can see massive shifts. Again, Trump came within under 10 points of winning Illinois, I believe, of winning Minnesota and New Jersey and Virginia. So why couldn't we see a similar shift in the other direction? For example, in 2020, if you look at Texas, 46.5 to 52.1. Biden's losing by basically, what is this, like 5 points pretty much, a little over 5 points. And if you go from 2020, Biden wins Minnesota 52 to 45, right? In 2024, Kamala only wins Minnesota 51 to 47. Yeah, that's like, you can see shifts of 5, 6, 7 points, 6, 7, right? In the span of 4 years, especially if Trump continues at the rate he's continuing at. So a map like this is not crazy to me. Sorry, like this. Or like this. Like, this is the upper bound. This is like the ceiling. If Democrats play all their cards correctly, then from what I read, getting 5-10% of the white population is enough to turn it blue. It's not surprising to me. It only went red because Dems adopted a new strategy and left rural folks and blue-collar workers behind. This is that dumb quote of like, we can lose one blue-collar worker for we're going to pick up like 2 suburban people at the same time. I'm basically from Ohio, but yeah, no offense. Ohio, they love Trump, maybe not. But here's the thing. I really don't think Ohio is going to love Trump as much as they did when they elected him. The people that are like loudest for Trump are going to remain loud. Those were not the people that won Trump the election. The people that won Trump the election in 2024 are not the ones who have Trump yard signs and Trump stickers on their cars and will never ever break. The ones who won Trump 2024 are like low propensity voters who just normally don't vote, or in some cases voted for Biden in 2020, right? I believe 3 or 4 million people that voted for Trump in 2024 voted for Biden in 2020. So a lot more of the electorate is up for grabs than people want to talk about, either through changing turnout, through changing minds. Persuasion is like a lost art in politics. This map is what I'm showing is like the best case scenario. If Democrats play their cards right, I don't think this is crazy. Is it likely? Obviously not. But like, you have to have an upper bound or something to strive for. It's so sad to me that like the way Democrats typically go after elections is like, oh, as long as we can get Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, that's our path. Maybe we get lucky and we get, I think Nevada used to be considered a safe blue, not safe, but like, I was surprised that Nevada flipped for Trump last time. But like, I don't want to strive for this. Maybe we can land here, but like, why don't we strive for these types of maps, right? What's the saying? Like, shoot for the stars, you land on the moon, whatever the fuck. Like, the Democratic Party is so close-minded with like what it thinks it can achieve, what it thinks it can accomplish. This goes over to policy, goes over to like electoral ambitions. These to me are like glaring red sirens that like the Republican Party is losing traction in places where they thought they were safe. The margins in New Jersey, again, the New Jersey governor's race, right? She wins by 14 points. And if you go over here, where is New Jersey? 6 points. Kamala Harris only won New Jersey by 6 points. Mikey Sherrill outperformed her by what? Like 8%? If you see these types of shifts in other places, in Georgia, in Arizona, in Nevada, in Ohio and Florida, again, I guess are tougher. You could even see like a crazy world where you have like, I'm telling you, I think blue Texas is slept on. I think Texas needs to be a place to focus on. I think we like lost track of that because Trump won it by so much in 2024, but we were close in 2020. So I don't know. I think there's like a lot of people don't understand how fucked Trump is right now. And like if you catch this momentum properly and you run the right candidates and you have the right policy platform, there's a lot of wins we can rack up. And it needs work. It requires like grassroots organizing, but I am just like, I'm a little bit annoyed by how small people's like imaginations are when we live in such unprecedented times. Just do a full court push on every purple state. If you're gonna spend all this money that Kamala Harris spent, dude, put some of it into Texas, okay? I think that's actually worth it. And especially, I've been saying, if Tallarico is the nominee for the Democrats in Texas Senate and he wins that race, he'll flip Texas in a general election, which is not even controversial to say. If a Democrat can win a Senate seat in Texas, I feel like they could flip it in a presidential election as well.
That the Democrat has any sort of a chance in this.
Talk to me about what the special election has been showing so far.
Yeah, okay, so you see this and you say, okay, this might just be a one-off in Tennessee. It's a December special election. But get this, 2025 House special elections. Dems outran Kamala Harris. We've had 5 so far. Arizona 7, Dem outran Kamala Harris. Florida 1, Dem outran Kamala Harris. Florida 6, Dem outran Kamala Harris. Texas 18, Dem outran Kamala Harris. And in the suburbs of Washington, D.C., in Virginia 11, the Dem outran Kamala Harris. And on average so far, the Democrats have been outrunning Kamala Harris's margin by over 15 points. So what the prediction market suggests what happened in Tennessee is not something that's happening in isolation. It is happening all over.
Like, I just want to be clear. The reason I'm sounding so bullish and maybe to some people delusional on the types of victories Democrats can achieve going forward is because I firmly believe, and this is like backed up by data as well as anecdotal experience and also just noticing trends on social media, I firmly believe that Trump's actual approval rating right now is probably like 30%, ranging between 33 and 20. Like, Trump is really, really cooked right now. And like, you might not think that's the case if you're on Twitter and you're on TikTok, where like the loudest voices are the ones you see, and you assume that if someone's loud, there's like 100 people standing behind them. The independents that voted for Trump are gone. That does not exist anymore. His disapproval rating with independents is like 70% disapproval. And that's not even Hopium. Hopium is this map that I'm showing you, right? Where like Democrats flip everything or whatever. But this is just descriptively true that Trump is like uniquely unpopular right now. I just saw a poll now that like I think equal numbers of people blame Trump and Biden for being the primary cause of high prices. That's crazy. So if you run the right person, like this is an environment. People forget the reason Obama did so well in 2008. People try to like intellectualize like, oh, he appealed to this white working class. No, it's because everyone hated Bush. Okay. There was like a grassroots movement in America saying Bush sucks. He's ruined everything. He ruined foreign policy. He ruined the economy. And I honestly think that after 4 years of Trump is very likely going to be more hated or similarly hated to how much Bush was hated. And if you have the perfect storm of a horrible national environment for Republicans and then a very, very good candidate for Democrats, that's how you end up with landslide victories. And like the way you win victories like this is by saying, oh, this is maybe 15% likely to happen. Let's aim for that. Like, let's not just write that off just because it's 15% likely. Trump was like 32% likely to win the election in 2016. And again, in Trump's 2024 election campaign strategy, on reaching out to, am I not centered on TikTok? What is this? Why am I not centered? Trump's campaign strategy of reaching out to low propensity voters was considered like politically stupid. You're not supposed to reach out to these people. They don't show up and vote. You're setting money on fire. Why are you spending money in all these states you can't win? Well, Trump did all these unconventional things off of like a delusional sense of like, we can flip these people, we can get them turned out to vote. And he was right. He did get out low propensity voters. He did reduce the margin in New Jersey and Minnesota and Virginia. That kind of worked. Like, when there's room to push people and expand your margins, take that. I'm exiting stage right. Yeah. Did someone mention this earlier? Did my entire TikTok stream just get... Oh, well. I'm hopping off anyways now, though. It is 9:30. So, thank y'all for watching. We got off to a little bit of a bumpy start today. But it seems like we recovered later on. So, try to go live again tomorrow. This is why you have to watch on YouTube. YouTube's been able to see my entire face the whole time. So, a little bit of a impromptu stream today. A little bit all over the place, a little bit chaotic, but we'll get back on track of the more structured. Here's the thing, dude. If you see me live, y'all need to double tap the fuck out of the screen because I enjoy the debates more than the reaction stuff. It also boosts viewership, so we need to just get more debates going, okay? But we're doing a full court push on live. I'm going to be live again tomorrow. Probably every weekday this week I'm going to be live. So tune in the evenings around 7-ish p.m. And YouTube is the place. YouTube is the place for that. But all right. And yes,